What if you did everything right? Saved $1 million, nearly paid off your home, and built the kind of retirement most people only dream about. Yet you still couldn't sleep at night? That's exactly the question one American couple asked on Reddit. She's 58, he's 61. Together, they've got over $1 million tucked away in 401ks, a $750,000 house that will be completely paid off in 5 years, and zero debt on the horizon. On paper, they've won the game, the kind of financial picture that personal finance gurus hold up as proof that discipline pays off. But when she posted on Our Middle Class Finance, her words weren't filled with pride or relief. They were filled with fear. Do you think we'll be okay? That one question sent shockwaves through the thread, because it revealed something deeper about money, security, and what it really means to feel ready. The couple had done nearly everything the right way. No reckless spending, no crazy investments. They followed the rules, saved consistently, and made all the right financial moves. Yet somehow they felt unsafe. It's a feeling millions of Americans quietly share, even the ones who are winning on paper. The fear that maybe, no matter how much you save, the world can change faster than your balance grows. And for this couple, that fear wasn't just about numbers. It was about something coming that no spreadsheet could predict. But what exactly were they afraid of? And what happened next that made their story go viral across America? Because this isn't just a story about money. It's about what happens when life interrupts the perfect financial plan and forces you to ask, how much is enough when time itself isn't guaranteed? For most people, this couple's situation sounds like the dream, the kind of life financial planners use in their ads. A paid-off home on the horizon, a 7-figure nest egg, no major debts, and years of steady saving behind them. They weren't living lavishly, but they weren't struggling either. She's 58. He's 61. They've been together for decades, worked hard, skipped the unnecessary luxuries, and watched their savings grow bit by bit. Between their 401ks, modest investments, and nearly paid-off home, their combined net worth hovers around $1.7 million. That's more than enough to retire comfortably in most of America. But when she opened Reddit and typed that simple question, "Do you think we'll be okay?" it hit a nerve. Because on paper, they were the model of middle-class success. Yet emotionally, they were standing on the edge of uncertainty. Maybe it's because, in today's economy, $1 million doesn't feel like what it used to. Inflation has eaten away at buying power. The cost of healthcare continues to rise, and people are living longer, which means retirement savings need to stretch decades further than before. Their post quickly became one of the most discussed topics on Our Middle Class Finance. It wasn't just about money, it was about fear. Fear that even doing everything right might not be enough. Commenters rushed in, many shocked that anyone with their financial stability could still be anxious. Others understood completely. As one user wrote, "You can have $2 million and still feel broke if the world around you feels unstable." That's the paradox of the modern American dream. Financial success without emotional peace. Because this couple wasn't really asking if they could afford to retire. They were asking if they could afford to stop worrying. And that question, simple, raw, and painfully relatable, sparked a conversation that peeled back the truth about how Americans really feel about money, stability, and the future. But the internet's reaction wasn't what they expected, and it revealed just how broken our idea of financial security might be. When the post went viral, Reddit users didn't hold back. Within hours, hundreds of comments poured in, from financial advisors, retirees, and even 20-somethings dreaming of someday having that much saved. The consensus? This couple was in a better position than 95% of Americans. With $1 million in retirement accounts and a $750,000 home that would soon be debt-free, they weren't just doing okay. They were winning big. Some commenters even ran quick calculations saying their savings could easily generate between $70,000 and $100,000 a year if they followed a standard withdrawal plan and collected Social Security. In other words, they could live comfortably, maybe even luxuriously, for the rest of their lives. But buried between those reassuring replies were dozens of comments that struck a different tone, one of empathy, not envy. "You're not alone," one user wrote. "We've saved for 30 years and I still wake up at 3 a.m. worrying we'll run out." "It's not about how much you have," another added. "It's about never feeling secure enough." And maybe that's the real issue, that no amount of money can quiet the anxiety that comes from uncertainty. Because the truth is, the couple's fear wasn't irrational. The economy shifts, healthcare costs skyrocket, markets crash, and retirement plans fall apart overnight. The idea of financial freedom has never felt more fragile. Still, many users tried to talk them off the ledge with math and logic, running projections, quoting the 4% rule, and reminding them how rare it is to be mortgage-free. But logic can't fix emotion. You can prove someone is rich on paper, but you can't convince them to feel safe, especially when the world keeps changing faster than their savings can grow. As the discussion unfolded, one comment cut through the noise. Maybe the question isn't whether you'll be okay financially, but whether you'll ever feel okay emotionally. That line hit thousands of people in the thread. It reframed the entire story, because it turns out the couple's anxiety had very little to do with spreadsheets or numbers. What they were really struggling with was something deeper, something that money can't buy. And what they revealed next would prove that sometimes even a perfect plan can fall apart in ways no one sees coming. As the thread grew, the woman behind the post returned to add an update, and what she shared changed everything. She explained that their fear wasn't just about market crashes, inflation, or running out of money. It was something far more personal. Her husband, the man she'd built her entire life with, had recently been diagnosed with a terminal illness. Suddenly, every spreadsheet, every retirement projection, every careful plan stopped mattering. The anxiety wasn't about how long the money would last. It was about how long he would. That revelation hit the community like a punch to the gut. The same people who'd spent hours debating compound interest and the 4% rule went silent. The thread that started as a financial question had turned into something much more human. A reminder that time, not money, is the real currency of life. She wrote about how their priorities shifted overnight. They had spent decades planning for someday. Someday they'd travel, someday they'd relax, someday they'd enjoy what they'd built. But someday had suddenly become now. "We've decided to start traveling while we still can," she wrote. "We're taking the trips we used to put off. We're making memories, not spreadsheets." It was a heartbreaking yet deeply grounding confession, one that hit home for thousands of people scrolling through their phones late at night. Because it exposed a brutal truth. You can spend your whole life preparing for the future, only to realize the future isn't promised. Her story reminded everyone that wealth isn't just about the size of your bank account. It's about the freedom to live and to love before it's too late. One commenter summed it up perfectly. "You've already won. You built a life, a home, and a love worth more than any portfolio." But even as her words inspired others, one lingering question remained. If financial security can't guarantee peace, what actually does? Her story struck a nerve because it revealed something millions of Americans are secretly feeling, even the ones who are doing everything right. This couple had followed every rule the system told them to. They worked hard, saved diligently, bought a house, paid down the mortgage, invested for decades, and lived below their means. Yet when it came time to think about retiring, the feeling wasn't joy. It was panic, and they're not alone. Across America, surveys show that even people with over $1 million saved still fear running out of money. They worry about medical bills, market crashes, and the rising cost of simply staying alive. But beneath those fears lies something deeper, a cultural myth that's been drilled into the American psyche, that success equals security. The truth? It doesn't. Because in today's economy, the numbers on your retirement statement don't tell the whole story. A $1 million nest egg might sound like freedom, but after inflation, taxes, and unpredictable healthcare costs, that cushion can start to look awfully thin. Add in the emotional toll of uncertainty, watching markets fluctuate, hearing headlines about recessions, seeing friends lose savings, and it's no wonder that financial anxiety has become America's quietest epidemic. Even the experts are starting to admit it. The 4% rule, once considered the golden formula for retirement withdrawals, is being questioned. People are living longer, spending more on healthcare, and facing unpredictable costs. The math is changing, and so is the mindset. That's the paradox. We're richer than ever on paper, yet poorer in peace of mind. It's the price of living in a world that tells us we can never have enough. Enough savings, enough growth, enough safety. And for this couple and millions like them, that fear turned financial planning into emotional survival. One Redditor summed it up perfectly. We've spent 40 years chasing security, and now we don't know how to stop. That's the emotional trap of modern retirement. Even when you've made it, you don't feel like you have. But as this couple was about to realize, sometimes the answer isn't in chasing more. It's in changing what enough really means. After her husband's diagnosis, everything the couple thought they knew about retirement was turned upside down. Their spreadsheets were still there, their investment accounts still growing. But suddenly, the numbers didn't matter the way they used to. For years, they had lived by the idea that enough meant financial safety. That one day, when the mortgage was gone and the savings hit 7 figures, peace would finally arrive. But it didn't. When they faced the reality that time, not money, it was running out, they began to understand something profound. Enough is not a number. It's a moment. It's a feeling. It's the ability to stop running and start living. So they made a decision that shocked their financial planner and inspired thousands online. They stopped saving. Instead, they started spending intentionally. On experiences, not things. They booked trips, visited old friends, took long walks without checking their phones. They talked about memories instead of markets. And for the first time in years, the anxiety began to fade. "It's strange," she wrote. "We're spending more than ever, but we finally feel free." It wasn't about being careless. It was about being present. The irony was that the fear of losing money had stopped them from enjoying the very life they'd worked so hard to build. Their story became a mirror for millions of readers, people chasing a retirement dream that always seems to move just out of reach. It reminded them that the real goal isn't endless growth or perfect timing. It's knowing when to stop worrying about tomorrow and start living today. One Redditor said it best: "The finish line isn't financial independence, it's emotional peace." That's the quiet truth behind the couple's story. They didn't need to earn more, invest smarter, or plan better. They just needed to understand that enough had already arrived. They just hadn't noticed. By the end of their story, it wasn't the money, the house, or even the perfectly calculated retirement plan that mattered. It was what they learned about time. When her husband's health began to decline, the couple finally saw their wealth for what it really was. Not a pile of numbers on a statement, but a tool. A way to buy back moments, not just things. They realized that money can't buy more years, but it can buy meaning in the years you have left. So instead of obsessing over how long their savings would last, they focused on how much life they could fit into the time they still had. They sold off some investments to fund a cross-country trip. They visited their favorite national parks, reconnected with old friends, and watched sunsets without worrying about markets. "For the first time in decades," she wrote, "we're not planning for someday. We're living for now. That single sentence captured the essence of what so many people forget. That retirement isn't the end of life's story. It's the point where you finally get to choose how it's written. When her post ended, thousands of strangers left messages of support, encouragement, and reflection. Some promised to travel more. Others said they'd stop waiting for the perfect time to enjoy what they already had. Because her story wasn't really about money at all. It was about perspective. It forced people to confront an uncomfortable truth. No amount of money can protect you from uncertainty, but gratitude and presence can protect you from fear. And that's the real takeaway, that peace doesn't come from a perfect plan. It comes from the courage to live fully, even when the plan falls apart. Months after her first post, the woman returned to Reddit with an update that stopped everyone in their tracks. Her husband had passed away peacefully at home. She wrote that they had spent their last few months together doing exactly what they promised, traveling, laughing, sitting under the stars, and talking about all the little moments that made their life theirs. There was sadness, of course, but there was also peace. "We didn't get forever," she wrote, "but we got enough." Her final message wasn't about fear or regret. It was about gratitude. She thanked the online community that had once tried to solve her financial anxieties, saying that in the end it wasn't the advice about budgets or withdrawal rates that mattered. It was the reminder that life's value can't be measured in dollars. Her story went viral again, but this time it wasn't because of the numbers. It was because she gave voice to something people secretly feel but rarely say out loud. That all the planning, saving, and striving in the world means nothing if we forget how to live while we can. The couple's journey became more than a financial lesson. It became an emotional one, a quiet revolution against the fear-driven idea that we must constantly chase more before we can feel secure. Because in the end, their legacy wasn't the $1 million they saved. It was the message they left behind. Money may buy comfort, but meaning is earned through living. And as her final words echoed through the comments, one line stood out, a perfect closing to a story that began in panic but ended in peace. "We stopped worrying about having enough for retirement. Instead, we made sure our retirement had enough of us."